What's going on, guys? Dan with Barrel Blades and Barbells. Back at it again. I know I've been gone for a minute. I've been working on a couple things, picking up some items, some pieces, parts. Today, I got something kind of cool in that's been part of something I've been wanting. I've been working on, but something that I wanted to add that I just haven't. I haven't bit the bullet. I did enough research on some other stuff, and that's why I was holding off. I was doing some research on trigger packs for the CZ Scorpion. So I ended up going with the cheaper route, because one route's about like $250 for a trigger pack, or you can do the HB Industries forward flat trigger and the lighter spring. I'm told that the CZ from the factory is like 9 pounds of trigger pull, which is really high. This is supposed to bring it down to around 5.5 is what I'm being told. So hopefully I'm gonna kind of walk you guys through this, put it together, do some dry fires, see what my feelings are on the trigger, and hopefully be able to give you guys kind of a this is my feelings on whether it was worth the $46 that I spent for that. So yeah, here we go. All right, so I don't have my normal tripod down here, so hopefully my phone will stay up, but I just wanted to kind of give you guys a unpacking, if you will, of what's in there, and I'm gonna throw parts in my tray here. So starting with the trigger itself, it's an aluminum trigger. It is slotted. I believe it's like a 1/8 or 1/4 inch forward on the actual face from what factory is, and it just comes with one tiny little roll pin. That's all that whole assembly is. I'm assuming the roll pin goes actually directly in the trigger. So as far as the spring though, it's a very, very tiny spring. You want to be very careful with this because you don't want to lose it. And there's actually 2 springs and a spacer. So this is your actual trigger spring. It's hard to get the focus on that. And I don't remember what they called this little one. Another tiny little spring. And then one tiny little shim spacer, which is like thousandths of an inch. I mean, it's hard to even make out on the camera there. So I'm told that shim isn't necessarily always needed. It's just like they send it precautionary. So we'll see how it goes. One thing I will note before I get digging into this too far is if you're working on one of these or you're thinking about doing this, something to check before you do it is inside right there. You see that screw right where my finger is? If you do not have that screw, you have a welded trigger pack. If you have a welded trigger pack, you can drill it out, or you can buy the kit from HB Industries, and it kind of sets you up for success on how to drill it out. But there is a hole right there to run an Allen screw or an Allen wrench down in to take the screw out. So proceed with caution on that. If you're going to drill it, watch their videos on how to do it. Okay, so with any firearms video, first thing you want to do is ensure that the weapon is clear and safe. So no rounds, no mags. Visually check it. We're all good there. We're going to take the bolt to the forward position, and we're going to put it on fire. There's a pin on the right-hand side. You got to push it out, and you pull it, and then basically you just rock. I'm going to get it to do it here. Yeah, the bolt's got to be in the rear. I can't remember. Yep, bolt's got to be in the rear. I couldn't remember if it was forward or back. You got to have the bolt to the rear position, so pull it back and lock it. And then this just rocks out. So once you pull that forward pin, it just kind of tip it out. You don't even need any more of this. Okay, so I got the screw out. There was a large abundance of blue Loctite on that. It broke loose pretty easily, but once it got to a certain point, the Loctite had actually built up like a little shoulder. So I kept turning and turning and turning, and then I seen just a little bit of a crack underneath the screw. So I took my tiny little screwdriver and just kind of pushed it under there and just kind of put a little pressure. Turned the wrench, and it popped right out. So I'll clean that back up before I reinsert it and put some more Loctite back on it. So once again, put parts in your tray so you don't lose them as well. Okay, so the next thing you got to do is take the safety selector off. So you want to take it off from the right-hand side. So the weapon would be, if you look at the trigger, the barrel would be pointed this way. I'm on the left-hand or the right-hand side there. There is a 1.5 millimeter set screw down in that tiny little groove right if I can get it right there. Try not to cross thread them because they're tiny. And then these things, you don't want to lose them because they're so small. I've got extras laying around, but you definitely don't want to lose them if you don't have spares. And if I remember right, you got to back this thing almost all the way out. So I replaced these with some Strike Industry ones a while back, and they have really long set screws. And there we go. All right, set screw is out. Put that on the tray, pull that out, and then you can actually just push, and the selector switch will basically just pop out. So there's your selector, and now you basically just have a trigger pack in there. Okay, just a little side note when you're doing this, before you pull the selector out, put it on fire and release the tension on the hammer. Makes it a lot easier. I had to jam it back in there and fiddle around with it to get it to let the hammer go forward. But once you get that loose, you can actually pull the whole trigger pack right out of this thing. You got to kind of finagle it, but it will come out. So now I got the trigger pack out. One thing you might want to do is have some toilet paper handy, because if you've cleaned this recently or haven't cleaned it in a long time, it's going to be very gritty, very rough. So I've got some paper towels here, and I'm cleaning along. I'm actually going to clean out the trigger pack well and get it all nice and clean before I throw this thing back together. It's got plenty of oil on it. It looks good. There's no rust or anything, but definitely got some grit down in there. So okay, so I got a little ahead of myself on this video here. I apologize, but I'm going to kind of walk you through how this thing is set together. So you have this spring sitting in here. You have your hammer setting in here, and it's just got tension. It actually goes this way. It's got tension setting up against it this way. You take this big pin and you just kind of slide it out. It just kind of push right out. Once it's out, you can just slide the hammer and that spring right out. When you go to take that out, though, there's the disconnector is in there, and it's under a little bit of a spring tension, so you kind of want to be careful. It can't come flying out. I found that out. Push the pin from the side that the disconnector is not on to the disconnector. So I believe it was from left to, let's see, it was this way. I think it was from left to right. Then the rest of it, there's only one other pin to hold the trigger spring, the sear spring, and all that together. It's pretty straightforward. You push the pin out. When you go to take the sear out, though, there is a spring underneath that. That's actually what that little tiny little spring I told you, it comes with the kit. That's what that's for. And it sits down in that little hole right there and goes in that groove right there. It's kind of hard to see, but these two sit together, and there's a pin that goes through that hole and holds all that together. And this just has just a tiny little bit of rock to it. What I was saying earlier about cleaning, this thing is grody. Like, it's got like grit all up in it from running 9mm. So the other thing is I'm going to replace the trigger shoe here. This is the stock one. This is what the replacement's going to look like. If I can get it oriented right, it's going to look like that. All that is just a straight push through pin. It's already started out. Just push it out, put the new shoe up on the little keyway, and drive your new pin back in. So it's pretty straightforward. So I went to put the trigger shoe on, and the pin, the roll pin, is super tight. So what I ended up doing was using the stock pin. It looked like maybe it was just cut just a little bit on the forward side. So there was a little, when you look through the hole, it looked like maybe it just bellied. It was pulled back just a little bit. But it seemed like the stock pin might have been just a touch smaller, and went and got my punch kit and went right in. So it's definitely not coming off. Okay, so I started to put this thing together. I kind of wanted to go over how this thing works. So you got a 3mm pin that goes through here. You can see the new spring is sticking up right there. Basically, all I did was start the pin in here. It'll go through the trigger, the trigger house, I guess is what this is called. And there's a little spacer there. and then your disconnect or your sear, and there's a spring between the sear and the trigger house, and then you put the spring in, the actual trigger spring there. The trigger spring, if you're looking at it from this angle, both legs will go this direction, and the orange one or red, whatever color you want to call that, will be on the downside. So from there, the next thing you do is once you get it in place, just slide that 3mm pin in to where it's flush, and then this is where you're going to start putting the disconnector and the hammer and the, I believe it's a 5 or 6mm pin in the hammer spring back in. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll show you what I did. Okay, so this is probably the most difficult part of this, is to get this trigger return spring, the part you're working essentially to replace, underneath your disconnector, which is this here. So the best way that I found to do it was to set the disconnector in. You can see the pins kind of through there a little bit. Don't put the pin through, but hold it in place. And then I took my little Glock tool and I pushed down on the spring and got it underneath the bottom of the disconnector. Then what you have to do is slide it forward just a little bit, and on the front side of the trigger, it's kind of hard to see at this angle or any angle, but right down in there at the bottom. It doesn't hook on the back side. It's not a hook. It actually just like slides into a groove on the back bottom of that trigger house, if you will. So it's a little tough, but I got it second try. It's not anything impossible. Most people are going to be able to do it. Take your time. You've got the pin, the 3mm pin already in, so the spring's not going to go anywhere. Worst case scenario is your disconnector is going to go flying, and it's a pretty big piece, so you're not really going to be, searching around for it too hard. So it's not like losing a D10 spring out of a AR-15. All right, once you get your disconnector in there, you're going to take the hammer spring. You're going to stick it down in there with the legs going down into the rear towards into the sear and underneath the trigger return spring. So it's going to go down and all the way under. Once you get it in there, it's just got a lot of tension to push it in. Once you push it down in there, though, there's not actually any spring tension. If you notice, my hammer's actually still got a little play in it. So there's no actual spring tension. It's just the spring itself is kind of wide, and to fit down into the actual trigger pack, you got to kind of force it down in there. So try not to knock the pin out that's holding the disconnector, because that'll make for a pain in the butt when it goes flying out. Once you get it down in there, you just put the hammer. Obviously, the flat side is going towards the front, which would be, flat and flat, trigger flat and your hammer flat. Just stick it down in there and advance the pin the rest of the way through to where it's flush on both sides. Check to make sure it's got tension. Yep, seems to be good. Moving on. One step forward, two steps back. All right, so I was doing a little function check on it, just kind of making sure everything seemed okay, and the spring that I just replaced snapped loose. What I think had happened is I had it pinned in, if you look, let's see if I can get it to zoom here. If you look over here, this little bar right here, your connector has like an angle down here on the back. I think I got it pinned in behind the angle just a little bit. So what I did when I put it back together after it came loose, I had to tear everything back apart. I used the little Glock tool and I pushed down and kind of flicked it and got it underneath of the actual flat portion. So hopefully that fixed it. I'm pretty sure I got it in there correctly, but I think it was just at an angle, and when I was wiggling it, it just gave it just enough clearance to snap loose. So, because it's not a huge spring. So, just in case that happens, try moving it towards the center a little bit, and it should line up. Okay, so I ran up and grabbed my my Loctite. As you can see there, I put the screw back in. Basically, all I did was just hold down on the top of the hammer, hold it in place, and ran the screw up from the bottom. Now, the selector switch is kind of difficult. The easiest way I can explain this is under and up. So if you look in right there on the top side, right there, there's like a little nipple that sticks down. That nipple goes into groove, and you'll be able to see the grooves on the top side of the selector switch. These grooves right here, there's two of them. One's obviously safe, one's semi. but it's just that click back and forth is all it is. What you want to do is go in, down at the bottom, get in that groove, and then push up and in. And you'll see this circle, there's like 3 circles here. You got inner, middle, and outer. The middle one needs to fit in the outer one. That's the easiest way I can explain that. When you go to do it, just go down, hook it, and lift up, and it'll snap into place. You'll hear a little click. Okay, once you get it, the selector switch in, then you're going to put the other half on. Once again, tiny little 1.5 millimeter set screw threaded down in there. Don't strip it out, but it goes pretty tight. And then double check your engagement. Let's see if I can. There's the hammer pull, just to do a functions check while I've got it over pulled open. Safe works. Semi hammer comes up. So we're good there on functionality. Already I can tell the trigger is substantially lighter than stock. Like, is a lot lighter, and it feels a little more crisp on the brake too. So we're gonna stick it the rest of the way back together and see what it feels like. Okay, already I can tell I like where the trigger placement is. I don't have huge hands, but before I felt kind of cramped back, so that further out forward trigger is very, very nice. I like that a lot already, especially when you're full engagement. I like that. So it is kind of a wide pad, little wider than maybe I would like, but it's nice. I still like it. Okay. For the trigger, the brake is way lighter now. I can tell this is going to run a lot faster on the trigger pull, because, like, I don't want to say it seems shorter. It's just you can get back on it a lot easier, a lot quicker. So, if I remember right, the trigger is like $35, and the spring was like $9. I think I had $46 or like $50, and even with shipping, for something that has kind of a not great trigger. While I love my CZ Scorpion, it doesn't have a great trigger. There are a couple other companies out there, but like I said in the beginning, they're very, very expensive. You know, $250 plus for a trigger for something that I can't hunt with. It's basically a range queen. Don't get me wrong, if you're running, 3-gun or doing competitions in general, and this is what you're running, by all means. For your average Joe, maybe not. I don't know. Run this for a little while, see how I like it. Maybe find somebody that's got the Timney or one of the other ones, and if it's like, holy crap, that blows my mind, well, okay, maybe, I'll ask Santa for that for Christmas. But overall, I can't complain with the HB Industries. Just so you guys are, this is full disclosure, literally while I was making this video, I would cut away and watch their video. Their videos are excellent. Little bit of background noise, but other than that, great videos, very informative. They tell you how to do everything. Go check out their stuff. Go check out their videos. So, yeah, can't wait to run this at the range. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope it helped you out. I'm going to try doing another video with actual shooting and see if I can run it a little faster than normal. But hope you guys like the video. Hope it helps you out. Hit the subscribe, hit the bell for me if you like it. And if you got something that you're interested in seeing, or something you would like me to do, blow up, whatever, throw it in the comments. I'll see what I can do. So you guys have fun, and stay tuned and stay tactical.